Hello, all you unofficial ninjas. I am King Link, and I'm going to take a last look and review of Aragami. First, a spoiler warning. I cycle through some names right now and choose the 10th level. This is a late level in the game, but it doesn't give too much away about the story. I do have many abilities here, but I mostly focus on the 3 main abilities. However, I like to warn people when I do play something past the opening sections so that they're warned. You can always change tabs and enjoy my lovely voice without seeing the level. I should talk about my expectations of this game. If you watched the first look, you know I picked the game because I thought it was a ninja at the cover. That's an odd criteria, but honestly, I excel at those odd criterias. I see something interesting and it suddenly becomes the reason to play the game. I saw Action Hank, for instance, Henk, if you're curious, in my library, and honestly, I want to check out that game just from the little panel image. So, I wanted a ninja game. Let's talk about the Aragami game itself. The thing is, Aragami does a lot of work to tell you that you're not, in fact, a ninja, and ignores the amount of gameplay in it that feels exactly like a ninja. It's an odd task, because people like ninjas. I know I do, and yet the game forces the word Aragami onto you repeatedly. In fact, the game forces a lot of odd vernacular on you. Yamako, Kaiho, Caruso, the Shadow Empress, Nishuko, and I'm sorry for each of those mispronunciations, but it expects you to care about all these words. Here's the thing, I don't care about these terms, and the game failed at making that connection for me. Yamako, for instance, gets the most development here. She's the woman in white that you see at the beginning of the video. But it's not really that interesting. She has an upbringing and stuff happens to her, and overall I did not care about her. It's mostly because the story cutscenes pop up in between moments of gameplay. It's never the beginning or end of a level, but rather the middle of it, and it's a moment that you just want to get back to the gameplay and move on. I am speeding through the story in the video, and maybe we get to see a cutscene at the end of the video, but if you want to see some with better examples, check the first look. You can see how inconvenient it is to the flow of the gameplay. In fact, in this video there's a perfect example at the end, and let me explain what happens. There's 3 people sitting there, and our Yamako is one of them. But the game switches back to the Aragami and Yamako to talk about the people in the scene. So when they're using character names and trying to identify the player's view of the character with the name, they don't show the character, so it doesn't connect as well as it could have. It's a failure of the story design, not the story itself. Those scenes, though, are all you get. Most of the game doesn't have really voiceovers, and it's pure gameplay. You see one sentence said by Yamako at the beginning of the level, and that's it. And the thing is, at the ending of the game, there's a small twist that, or maybe a big twist, but it's one that I did not really feel because I didn't have a connection to the stories or the characters. The Aragami is told that he disappears at first sunlight. Okay, that's my motivation in the game. Who these people are doesn't really matter to me. So, how's the gameplay overall? Well, Aragamis are overpowered, in my opinion. There's only one in this game, but you can see how powerful I am as I play it. You get 2 major abilities at the beginning of the game. You get the ability to teleport to shadows, and the ability to paint shadows in case you need a quick escape and you don't have a shadow handy. Those 2 powers were enough to beat the game. Maybe. The warp ability is really powerful because you just look at another shadow and you can teleport to it as long as you have shadow power. You get this shadow power from hiding in the shadows and lose it by standing near light. Okay, that works. But sometimes you can't teleport and you have the shadow power. It's because you have to mess around with the system to figure out why you can't. It's usually an aiming mechanic that's not implemented just right, where you can be a pixel off and it doesn't teleport, but it's also possible that it's not dark enough. There's a true shadow, there's a light shadow, and then there's full light. It doesn't really differentiate between these two that well, between the shadow and the light shadow. The drawing of shadows ability is a better system, and it's easier to do. You can just point at any area and just say there's a shadow there. As long as it's not in pure light, you're good. These abilities are earned by paying scrolls, which are the collectibles of the game. Personally, I think the Disappearing Bodies ability is the best ability to get as a third ability. And then after that, the player should probably buy the ability to see the scrolls on the bird call map that comes up, so that they can easily earn more scrolls quickly. Otherwise, they're hidden and they're a little bit hard to find if you don't know where they are. But here's the other side of that. Those powers are not important. After getting that Shadow Warp, the Shadow Draw, and the Disappearing Bodies ability, I didn't need any other ability to beat the game. I used invisibility at some point, and I used it in this game, but I only used that about halfway through the game, and I just learned that it made a few sections super easy that I could just speed through. Okay, that works. Late in the game, I found out that each ability has its own counter of uses. I never switched abilities before that, and I didn't realize it, so that's the thing. I didn't feel the need to explore these abilities until the second to last level, and even there was a mistake. I was just browsing around. I was able to breeze through the game with just those three, with some invisibility just to speed it up. In addition, the game has you collect 6 talismans as part of the story. The first talisman gives you the ability to make a noise like Solid Snake, knocking on the wall. In this case, you're ringing a few bells. That's the only ability, though, from talismans, and it feels cheap to give one, because I got 5 more talismans in the game, and each time I was expecting just one more ability. It never came. So Aragami, as you can see, is clearly about stealth, and it's rather good at stealth, honestly. Enemies notice you, and a bar will fill up depending on how exposed you are. If it fills all the way up, the enemy will attack you, and then call for reinforcements. That means you have a small window from being fully sighted to kill a guard so that they don't alert everyone. However, those attacks are deadly. A single hit of anything will kill you. But the stealth is really strong. If you crouch in the shadows, you're almost invisible. And even then, if someone starts to see you, oftentimes you can teleport behind them and kill them. And it's a pretty easy kill at that point. They have no recourse if you use that type of attack. But the more I think about it, that warp power is too powerful just from what you can do with it. Enemy selection in this game is also rather sparse. There's maybe 3 types of enemies, if I'm being very forgiving. There's 2 forms of the same guard. One is normal, and one has a trailing homing grenade in 1 or 2 levels. There's also an archer. After that, that's the only guards or enemies that are really in the game. There are 2 bosses as well, but nothing here gives you a real challenge. I will also say that the level design is excellent, and it probably helps lower the difficulty of the game a bit. There's a lot of verticality in the levels, and the guards are quite stupid. They rarely look upwards, and you can use attacks from above on many of them. However, the locations are beautiful. There's a lake that just astounds me every time I see it. There's a spooky graveyard. There's all these areas that have great Japanese significance or feeling to them, and it's so much fun to explore them. There's a Japanese castle at one point that you climb up. Things like that are really awesome. Overall, though, I wanted a game about ninjas, and even though it doesn't really agree with me, I got a game with ninjas. But Aragami is just a bit too easy. It also doesn't stand out in my mind. It's a solid attempt and has a small flavor of like Tenchu, but you're just so wicked overpowered that it's hard for me to get overly excited about this game. I ultimately give Aragami a 3 out of 5. It's a good game, but it's not a must-own. Well, that was Aragami. I'm King Link, and I have to do my normal spiel. If you like this video, leave a like. If you want to see more, consider subscribing. If you are subscribed, you can click the bell next to the subscribe button to be notified when I post new videos. It'll help you find my content. The full written review is linked in the description, or if you want to see my site, it's located at kinglink-reviews.com. With that said, I'm out of here. I'll see you next time.